Cressida Dick, making things worse or building bridges, as she says sorry to Bianca Williams for stopping them, even after allegations of the drive of the vehicle she was in, driving on the wrong side of the road and failing to stop for police. Dorset Police MPAS officer Timothy Bremner denies murder but admits manslaughter of nurse Claire Parry in a pub car park. Scottish Government jump on the man-hating bandwagon as Muslim Justice Secretary calls for misogyny to be added as a hate crime. High Wycombe residents £8,000 bill for drinking carrot juice from a can of Foster's. This and more coming up. Don't forget, these reports are daily, Monday to Friday. Please remember to subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss any future uploads. And if you appreciate the work I do, please consider joining the channel Patreon for as little as just £3 a month to help me continue providing you this content. Hello ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, innies, outies and in-betweeners. My name's Dan and welcome back to another PAP Reports. It's Thursday, July the 9th, 2020. Cressida Dick has caved in. Yep, one of the most powerful women in the country has folded like a wet napkin after she cracked under public pressure in front of the Home Affairs Select Committee. Caressing Your Dick told MPs that the Met Police had said sorry for the distress caused to athlete Bianca Williams after she and her partner were stopped before appearing to be dragged from their car and handcuffed while their 3-month-old son was on board, and also told how the Met is now reviewing its handcuffing practices. However, she rejects claims of racism and says that officers hate the accusation. Now, this obviously refers to the video that was shared online just a few days ago showing a short clip of the interaction between the occupants of the vehicle and several Metropolitan Police Constables. Now, for the sake of fairness and transparency, I do have to say that although Bianca Williams claims she was targeted because she was black, I've seen multiple reports from police-related sites that say that officers spotted a vehicle with tinted windows being driven on the wrong side of the road. As they attempted to catch up with the car, it made off from them at speed. The vehicle came to a stop, and after a few seconds the TSG caught up with it. Officers exited the police carrier not knowing who was inside the vehicle or whether it might attempt to make off from them again. Inside the car was Bianca Williams and her partner along with their son. Ms Williams recorded the point at which officers tried to secure the vehicle and its occupants on her mobile phone before uploading the footage to social media. Now, even the Met's own statement issued after the incident said, at around 13:25 hours on Saturday the 4th of July, officers from the Territorial Support Group were patrolling in the W9 area in response to an increase in violence involving weapons. Officers witnessed a vehicle that was being driven in a manner that raised suspicion, heavily braking and accelerating, which included driving on the wrong side of the road. They indicated for the vehicle to stop, but it failed to do so and accelerated off. The officers caught up with the vehicle when it stopped on Landhill Road. The driver initially refused to get out of the car. The occupants, a 25-year-old man and a 26-year-old woman, were informed that they were being detained for the purposes of a search under Section 1 of the Police and Criminal Evidence Act 1984. They were both handcuffed due to the officers' views, which took into account the manner in which the vehicle was being driven, that the vehicle was attempting to evade police, and due to the driver refusing to leave his vehicle. Following a search of the vehicle, the man and the woman, nothing was found. No arrests were made and the occupants were allowed on their way. Police are aware of a video circulating on social media showing part of that stop. Each stop is dealt with on its own merits at the discretion of the individual officers involved, taking into account various aspects, including behaviour and compliance. Officers have to make these judgment calls regularly on a daily basis, often in difficult circumstances, in areas suffering from violence and knife crime, where proactive policing is a priority. They understand that their actions will be scrutinised as they go about their work and that the public have the right to hold them to account where appropriate. Officers from the Directorate of Professional Standards carried out both reviews and are satisfied there are no misconduct issues for any officer involved. The Independent Office for Police Conduct are aware of this matter and have asked for information from the Metropolitan Police Service to make an assessment about the level of their involvement. We are offering every assistance. We have not received an official complaint about the matter from the occupants of the vehicle, but are aware of media and social media commentary. Now, although I take everything the police say with a pinch of salt, I haven't yet seen a statement from Williams saying this is untrue. although the mainstream media is saying there is one. However, the police have said there is body-worn video or in-car camera footage which many police are calling for to be released. That being said, just because I haven't seen a statement from Bianca Williams denying the claims doesn't mean that they're true either, which leaves us with a bit of a quandary. I think Dick has made a mistake and has done so under public pressure. I think the fact that she herself is part of a minority group or protected group, whichever way you want to call it, has influenced her decision. And the reason I say that is because no one has ever been apologised to for the police causing them distress after being stopped for what could be dangerous driving, careless driving, driving without due care, making off from police, failing to stop, which is basically what's being claimed by the police. So does it make sense for them to say sorry? I think not.
Yesterday, two of my officers spoke on our behalf to Ms Williams, and I think all of us, watching, could empathise with somebody who is stopped in a vehicle, who has a young child in the back, who does not probably know what exactly is going on, and is subsequently found, together with her partner, not to be carrying any illicit goods. Every time we see a video that is of concern to members of the public, we review them, we see if there are any lessons learned, and I don't rule out in this case. And as I said, my senior officer has I didn't say this, but she said, I'm sorry to Ms Williams for the distress it has clearly caused her, and I say that too. So if there are lessons to be learned from it, we will learn them, and I am looking at handcuffing as a specific issue.
Are you now apologising to Bianca Williams and to her partner for what happened to them? I wasn't clear from what you said.
I think I was sorry. I'm sorry if I wasn't clear.
I
thought I was very clear.
I just wanted to clarify.
We apologised yesterday to Ms Williams, and I apologise again for the distress that this stop clearly caused her. That's what I've done, and that's what I'm saying.
As you can see, she's only said sorry for the distress, not the stop itself, and not that police were mistaken or anything else of that nature. I think this is going to play out for a while, with lots of people coming to lots of conclusions solely based on the fact that there is only a small part of the interaction caught on video that's been released at the moment, and that part released fuels the narrative. I think the police do need to release the body-worn video or dash cam as soon as possible in order to clear this up, and I think that I think the police need to release the body-worn video or dash cam from the TSG vans ASAP in order to clear this up. And I think that one way or another it needs to be proven whether the vehicle was being driven erratically and if it did indeed fail to stop for police. There's too many loose ends at the moment, and I don't think making an apology that no one else would receive is any good. It harms the police's reputation more, but also adds fuel to this. There are too many loose ends at the moment, and I think making that apology, an apology that no one else would receive, not only harms the police's reputation more, but also adds fuel to this bloody fire that is the public officials pandering to certain groups of our society. Now, with that said, I will say fair play to retired Superintendent Leroy Logan from the Metropolitan Police, who is at least trying to help the situation rather than make it worse, after he posted on Twitter footage of a stop and search in East London of an Asian male, as police search and arrest him for possession with intent to supply. Although, to be fair, there's no evidence whether it was a set-up for the video or not.
Good job from our officers here. Keep up the good work.
Leroy Logan said the man who was Asian and arrested for possession with intent complained his arm was hurting and an ambulance was called. I wanted to post a successful stop. Even if there is provocation, officers must not react. And I think it's fair to say that people who are being stopped should defend their rights, but also need to realise there does come a time when you have to admit defeat in the moment or follow up with a complaint afterwards rather than becoming aggressive. Because although Leroy says, even if there is provocation, officers must not react, that unfortunately isn't always the case, and it's better to be able to complain and follow through without being injured or compromising your case against an unlawful stop, detainment or arrest. 46-year-old drama teacher Kim Connor has been jailed after being found guilty of grooming and being involved with a 13-year-old girl pupil, which left the young girl suicidal and affected her relationship with her parents, who were said to be heartbroken by the revelations. The hearing at Minshull Street Crown Court heard that the victim was just 13 and struggling to come to terms with her sexuality when Kim Connor began grooming her, keeping the abuse secret for 6 years until 2018, when the spread of the Me Too movement led her to go to police. The girl was said to have been enthralled and besotted with Connor, while the girl's parents mistakenly assumed the teacher was mentoring their daughter. Standing in court, the victim cried as she explained, "She instructed me to keep our relationship a secret, not through excitement of it, but because it was wrong. Even though she has not been present in my life for the last 10 years, she has still destroyed the love, trust and attachment a child should have with their parents. My dreams and aspirations for the theatre have been tarnished. Kim took the best years of my life away from me. She made me lose my family. She doesn't understand the hold she had over me for so many years." Kim met the victim when she enrolled at a drama school in Salford. Mr. Darren Preston, prosecuting, said, when in her mid-teens the complainant had difficulties coming to terms with her sexuality and was not sure if she was gay. But during a lesson, Connor kissed the girl on the lips when she was 14, in a platonic way, but the situation began to develop and the two began to regularly meet and text each other. The relationship began to become intimate and stopped being just pecks on the cheek, and the girl would stay overnight at the defendant's home when she was 14. It was with the full knowledge of her parents, but they trusted the teacher, which in itself is questionable. I mean, who the hell lets their kids stay at a teacher's house, whether they're the same sex or not? I think questions need answering over that little detail. As far as the younger girl was concerned, she thought they were in a relationship and would go out to restaurants together, as well as attending concerts and going shopping at the Trafford Centre. However, when they were out in public, the defendant would warn the complainant she could not tell anyone they were together, and that there should be no overt signs of affection. If asked, she was to say she was 21, and the defendant warned her that she might have to push her away. She knew full well what she was doing was wrong. The complainant was besotted with the defendant, but was never allowed to show affection. They became friendly, they became affectionate. It was a relationship which was unequal, but one which was exploitative. While the defendant never did anything the complainant did not consent to, the reality is that this was an abusive relationship. The complainant was vulnerable, and the defendant exploited the fact she was only 14 when the relationship started. Connor, a mother of 2, I'll be looking into that as well, was found guilty of 3 offences of intimate activity with a child by a person in a position of trust, and a further 3 counts of causing or inciting a child to engage in intimate activity by a person in a position of trust. I'm using the word intimate to try and swerve YouTube systems limiting monetisation, but ultimately when I say intimate, I mean that word beginning with S and ending with actual. Connor denied wrongdoing, claiming a relationship only began when the girl was 18, and said they grew close following the Rod Stewart concert. Judge John Edwards told her, "You crossed a boundary, and by doing so you jeopardised your career and her innocence. It was utterly selfish and potentially very damaging to a young woman who was both confused and in your thrall in equal measure. She was groomed and manipulated during an extremely impressionable time in her life." However, and I think you know what's coming next, although Connor was ordered to sign a sex offenders register for 10 years, she was only jailed for 9 months. 9 months for a physical abuse and years of mental torment for that girl. No wonder our judicial system is the envy of the world. In PAP Reports on the 12th of May, we had a story about how nurse Claire Parry, who was strangled in a pub car park in Dorset by her lover PC Timothy Bremer, attached to the National Police Air Service for the local force, died. Bremer attacked Claire Parry in the car park of the Horns Inn in West Parley before cutting his own wrists, but not doing a very good job of it. Parry, who was married to another police constable, was in critical condition when the ambulance arrived. She was taken to the Royal Bournemouth Hospital, but died the following morning. The post-mortem concluded that the cause of death was a brain injury due to compression of her neck. After Claire died, the Crown Prosecution Service authorised the charge of murder for Bremer. Well, Bremer appeared at Winchester Crown Court yesterday, where he denied murder, but pleaded guilty to manslaughter. Unfortunately for him, the prosecution refused to accept that plea, and the case will now proceed to trial for murder. Although he was not on duty, the incident has also been referred to the Independent Office for Police Conduct. Bremer has been remanded in custody and will face a trial at Winchester Crown Court that is due to begin October the 12th. A police constable based on the largest of the Channel Islands, Jersey, is currently under investigation after an incident which occurred during lockdown on May 27th, in which he allegedly called some youths faggots. A video recording, which I've not been able to find yet, apparently shows one of the youths asking a male officer why he had just called other youths faggots. The conversation, which has been transcribed by another news outlet, is said to have gone as follows. Little faggots. You just called them little faggots? Yes, I did. That's discrimination. How is it? You tell me in your drunken, stupid state how that's discrimination. I'm not drunk. That's discrimination. No, it's not, mate. No, it's not. Look up discrimination if you had a phone. You just called them faggots and they're not gay? Jersey police have said, we were made aware of this footage several weeks ago, and although a complaint from the public was not received, we took immediate action and referred it to the Professional Standards Department, who are conducting an internal disciplinary investigation. They continue to say that they wanted to make it clear that they expect staff to behave in a professional manner, and they take a strong stance on the use of offensive or inappropriate language. As part of the States of Jersey Police's commitment to young people in Jersey, we have a pledge. So often police in Jersey are seen as enforcing laws. As the Chief of States of Jersey Police, I want to be seen as supporting young people, not enforcing the law. I will follow up on that story as more becomes available. 50-year-old Darren Oakley, a former Staffordshire Police Constable, appeared before Cannock Magistrates Court yesterday, Wednesday the 8th of July, charged with 2 counts of fraud by false representation, committing an series of acts with intent to pervert the course of justice and obtain disclosed personal data information, contrary to the Data Protection Act, which were all said to have committed while he was a serving constable. No surprise there. Oakley entered no plea at the hearing, and so his case has been adjourned to be heard at Stafford Crown Court at a date to be arranged. A misconduct hearing was held on the 3rd of July, with details only being released yesterday, which was held for former Metropolitan North West Command Unit Police Constable PC Lesser, after he crashed a police car by reversing it into a post and then concealed how the damage had been caused. Yeah, it's only a scratch. I'll buff that out, no one will notice. It was also alleged that PC Lesser behaved in an aggressive, discourteous and threatening way towards a junior colleague with regard to that same incident. It was determined at the hearing that had Lesser not resigned on March the 7th, then he would have been dismissed after breached standards of professional behaviour in respect to honesty, integrity, authority, respect and courtesy, and demonstrated discreditable conduct were all proven. I wonder if he feels lesser man without his badge. Yesterday we spoke about this little lady, millennial man-hater Sylvie Pope, who is spearheading a campaign to give men-hating women the power to ruin men's lives by getting them stitched up with a hate crime if they say something a woman doesn't like. Well, I had an email last night from a subscriber with a link to information about how new hate crime laws have been proposed, this time in Scotland, which looks at the possibility of making misogyny an offence. The Scottish Government's proposals would incorporate the existing aggravating factors and add the characteristics of age, with the potential to include sex at a later date, so misogynistic harassment can become a standalone offence, and will also extend stirring up hatred to cover all characteristics, except mine. Hamza Yousaf, the Scottish Justice Secretary, has said this new hate crime bill is an important milestone. Clearly, he hasn't thought this through, considering he's Muslim and the majority of Muslims seem to believe that a wife should always obey her husband. He said, by creating robust laws for the justice system, Parliament will send a strong message to victims, perpetrators, communities and to wider society that offences motivated by prejudice will be treated seriously and not be tolerated. He added, stirring up of hatred can contribute to a social atmosphere in which discrimination is accepted as normal. Our legislation, if passed, would offer greater protection for those who experience this kind of behaviour. We all have a responsibility to challenge prejudice in order to ensure Scotland is the inclusive and respectful society we want it to be. Now, an important thing to note here is that Lord Bracadell, a retired senior Scottish judge, said that gender should be added to the hate crime laws, which of course would cover men too, but said that this has been criticised by leading women's organisations. Instead, they proposed a standalone offence of misogynistic harassment, which the Scottish Government says it is committed to in principle. So the Scottish Government have dismissed the law to protect both men and women, but have agreed in principle to standalone offence of misogyny. Well done. Now, what makes me laugh about this from Justice Secretary Hamza Youssef is he's Muslim, and although I don't know that much about Muslims or Islam, I think it's clear that the majority of Muslim men treat their women far differently than those from Europe. In fact, from some brief research, I found that although Islam supposedly offers more rights to women, many Muslim men still believe that, and these are not my words but rather quoted from who I believe to be a lawyer in Egypt. Women before Islam were just wombs and tools to satisfy desires. She has no right to inherit and has no right to own money. Muslims learned the best way for a man to deal with his wife of the Prophet Muhammad. When a woman's intuition tells her that a man cares about her, she should listen to him. A wife shouldn't allow someone her husband doesn't like to enter the house. The wife should take care of the needs of her husband. She should protect his money, keep his secrets, take care of his food, drink and sleep. Now, believe it or not, most, if not all of this would go against what Sylvie Pope is campaigning for, and I seriously can't imagine how these two ideals from two very different cultures are going to work together. I know there are people watching this who will know far more about Muslims and Islam than I do, and I don't pretend to be any kind of expert. So your opinions would be greatly appreciated, but please let's keep it on topic and not turn the comments into a bashing session against Muslims, because it shouldn't be. It should be a bashing session against these millennial man haters. High Wycombe Council has taken one of its residents to the High Court for no other reason than to teach him a lesson. 33-year-old Alex Snowball has been ordered to pay the majority of the council's £10,000 legal bill for the case, meaning he faces a bill of around £8,000 because he drank carrot juice from a can of Foster's in the no alcohol zone in town. Teetotaler Alex wanted to test whether the police would enforce a no alcohol zone in the area around his store, so filled a Foster's can with carrot juice and began sipping near to his second-hand electronics store in Frogmore, High Wycombe. He was in fact given an on-the-spot fine as the Public Spaces Protection Order in place, which prevents... He was in fact given an on-the-spot fine as the Public Spaces Protection Order He was in fact given an on-the-spot fine as there was a Public Spaces Protection Order in place, which upon reviewing the PSPO from their website prohibits the consumption of alcohol or anything which the constable or authorised person believes to be alcohol or an alcohol container. Not quite sure how you can consume an alcohol container, but I guess the police and councils just make this chisel up as they go. It also says that it's an offence to not surrender anything which is or which the constable or authorised person reasonably believes to be alcohol or a container for alcohol. Now, although it appears that Alex didn't initially hand over the can, he did tip the contents out in order to prove to the constable or authorised person that it wasn't alcohol, therefore dispelling any reasonable belief that it was alcohol, meaning that that part of the offence was not fulfilled. I can't find any information on whether Alex ultimately gave the empty can over, but he was issued with a £60 fine. After refusing to pay the fine, the case escalated to High Wycombe Magistrates Court last December, where he pleaded not guilty to failing to comply with the order, and magistrates actually took his side, after ruling that the can contained carrot juice, therefore the offence was not complete. But High Wycombe Council thought it would be a good idea to spend £10,000 of council taxpayers' money in order to take the matter to the High Court. Mr Snowball, who did admit to being deliberately awkward, claimed he was trying to expose the lack of enforcement and that the senior responding officer knew he was teetotal. But the council decided to concentrate on the fact that although the PSPO is to prevent people getting drunk in a public place and causing antisocial behaviour, the fact that Alex didn't hand over his can is what constituted this whole situation. Yeah, failing to give a constable or authorised person an empty can to put in a bin for you was worth the council risking 10 grand of legal fees and likely more in staff wages. During a hearing at the High Court, Mrs Justice Elizabeth Lang During a hearing at the High Court, Mrs Justice Elizabeth Lang overturned the previous magistrate's decision to acquit Mr Snowball and sent the case back to the magistrate's court and ordered them to find him guilty. The judge ordered Mr Snowball to pay the majority of the council's £10,000 legal bill for the case, meaning he faces a legal bill of around £8,000. Now, I fully appreciate that the council won and therefore were paid or will be paid the majority of their legal fees back. But is this actually what people are paying their council tax for? Yes, Alex wanted to test them and he got his fingers burnt, but there was a risk the council could have lost that money by losing the case, and also sets a precedent now for anyone who's simply being awkward rather than actually breaking any laws. Imagine what's going to happen to you when kids who are known for their awkwardness start getting fines for stupid things that break no laws and harm no person, and you get a fine through your door that you don't agree with. The local courts will start upholding the allegations simply to cover their arses, and it's the residents of High Wycombe who are going to suffer. I'm not for a moment suggesting that people shouldn't be reprimanded for breaking laws, but this was a case of a man who allegedly failed to hand over an empty tin can for the constable or authorised person to put in a damn bin. Can you see how utterly pathetic this whole thing is? Can you see the kind of precedent that this can set? And can you see the contempt the council has for its residents using their council tax money to pay for a spurious charge over a damn tin can that was going in a bin anyway? Can you also see now how enforcement officers will have a hard-on, knowing that the council are willing to back them to the High Court, forgetting that it's the local residents paying for it without, I'm sure, even knowing about it? Big thank you to all of the supporters of the channel, especially the channel Patreon supporters. Of course, the support is truly appreciated and really does help. And that's all I have for you today. Please like, share, comment and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts, as I know many of you will. And until next time, stay safe, look after each other, film the police and other officials.
Good night, all.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you like the content and you'd like to help support the channel, you can do so. In the description of every video there are some links to ways that you're able to help support the channel so I can continue putting out content. If you're unable to help us in that way, hit that subscribe button up the top there. If you haven't already, become a subscriber. That is support enough. Share the videos, comment, like, it all helps. If you're looking for something else to watch, up top there is my latest video. Down the bottom there is a video that YouTube recommends for you.